Well, what I'm going to be doing today, everybody, is inking this period that I started last week. Might take me, just like everybody, it might take me a little bit to kind of get in the swing of things. Right now, I'm looking at my other screen, so because usually, when you're streaming live, you have to see what's going on the other screen. And all right, I can see it now. So you can see this picture of period is from my comic book, The Punctuation Men, which is a pretty cool comic. As you can see by taking a look here, these characters are based on punctuation marks. Now they weren't like, you know, punctuation marks that came to life or anything like that. But they are basically just these ridiculous guys who decide to be superheroes, and you're not it doesn't really explain why, and that's kind of part of it. But there's this guy is called the period. This guy is apostrophe, his sidekick, and that guy is called Bucky, my dog, who's barking. That may happen. Here is Brad the lotion salesman. And right in this panel right here, he's saying, well, I'm just doing my part in a never-ending battle against wrinkles. I will not stop until the entire world has perfectly pH balanced skin. So that's his big, like, you know, purpose in life. And anyway, it's filled with these funny, cool characters and an evil villain called Renan Sentence. And anyway, right now I'm selling these bundles on eBay, and I have 850 copies left from the original print run. And so if you're interested, if you're a reseller, or if you're um if you do conventions, or if you're a retailer, it's a great deal right now because I got them on sale for, you know, dirt cheap wholesale pricing. So anyway, I started this um period, and I'm still relatively new to live stream. This is my second live stream, but I appreciate anybody who's joined. And I started this last week, and what I'm going to be doing this week is inking it. And as you can see, the whole thing is there. And if you want to see me drawing it, just go check out last week's episode. So here we go. What this is that I'm using is just like one of those Tombow or Fudinowski pens. And you can see the duct tape I got on there. Why do I have duct tape on there? Because last week, I know, not last week. I got duct tape because you can do that. Like if the pens run out, you can pop off the bag and then drop in ink, and it'll refill them. And you can keep it going. And they tend to, after you do that, they tend to actually have a little bit better ink flow. That may or may not be what you want, you know. But for this, it works pretty good for me. What I'm going to be doing here is trying to keep what I'm doing simple, and at some point I may switch to a brush here, but I'm just getting warmed up. And it's a little bit hot in here, so I'm gonna turn the fan on. I live in Arizona, guys, so that's the way it is in Arizona. Yeah, so even though right now the Punctuation Man issue 1 is only available on eBay, there's different tiers of the bundles. You can get, you know, the bigger tiers, 20 to 25 copies, or you can get smaller starter bundles, which is from 5 to 15 copies. And they are a smoking deal right now, so get them while you can, because they're the only remaining copies from the original print run, which I did back in 2003. So I'm bringing Punctuation Men back right now. Over the years, they sold at conventions or local shops, or some giveaways to people. And over that time, out of the original 2,000 that were printed, there's only 850 copies left. This this Fudinowski is working good for me, and it's also given me the style that I want, It almost gives you just like a brush quality. And being that I kind of like having a brush quality, I need to lower this camera just a little bit so that I can lower this a little bit, because it's a little bit high for me right now. So thanks for anybody who might be catching this show. I really am gonna start trying to do these live streams every Saturday. So as I've said before, I tend to be a little bit slower on the inking because I'm being a little bit more methodical. But since this is a live stream, I'm just getting warmed up right now. We'll see how it goes. And sorry, but that's another thing about the way I ink is I got sweaty hands, so I have to use this paper to kind of cover it. So otherwise I'm going to be smudging this all over the place. I don't know what kind of week you guys have been having, but I'm just feeling kind of like emotional this week, I guess. Kind of spiritual, emotional. Having weird, dark dreams. That's actually something I've had, most of my life. If you go check out my Instagram page and some of the other things I have for sale, you'll see I do have a, well, I don't know. I don't want to say I have a dark side, but everybody kind of has somewhat of a dark side, the shadow. But it's more just that I like to draw things that are a little scary. Hoping that I can connect with, more of an audience of people that appreciate that sort of thing. So I have a lot of surreal art that I've made, and I have some of it on Displate you can buy right now. I got like, I don't have all of the art I've made up for sale yet. That's something on the big list of things to do. But what I do have is a website called landonhuberstudios.com. And on that website, you'll find a lot of really cool Halloween shirts. And all you got to do is, click on the buy it now button, and then it'll take you to a checkout page on Printful. Because I am not running like a big print shop here. I'm an artist. I create art and I have it for sale. And Printful does a great job with their quality. But yeah, you guys should go check it out, especially if you like, kind of scarier Halloween kinds of things. But yeah, I have several different aspects to who I am, what I do, and that's one of them. I have a passion for that. I have a passion for comics, which is what I'm doing now. I haven't made a lot of surreal art lately, but I have in the past, and no matter what I'm working on, I'm putting everything I got into it, and it's all out of my head. I don't use AI to generate my artwork, and I never will. And that doesn't mean I'm totally opposed to all forms of use of it. If you need information or you need to learn how to a functionality of a tool or something, all that sort of stuff, assuming that the AI is giving you correct advice, which sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But all that sort of stuff, I definitely see the value of it. And but obviously coming from the artist perspective, it's a little disheartening when all people have to do anymore is just make a prompt and get an image. And although that's a powerful tool, as I have said before, it really atrophies the human connection I think that people are gonna have with the art. But also just the the ability of humans to do those things, you know. So if you know if you're to take a person and stick them in a empty room and give them a blank piece of paper, you know, and give them tools that like to create with, whatever it may be. Right now I'm using a Fudanansky pen and a piece of paper. But I think the real um, test of your personal skill and knowledge in a form must come from some certain kind of limitation of the what the tools are doing for you. So, you know, what respect is a person gonna have if everybody knows, like if I finish this art and everybody just, oh, he used AI for that. I'm pretty sure I would get zero respect, just in a general kind of way, you know? And regardless of what all these big corporations and companies are trying to brainwash us into right now so they can maximize their profits, you know, I stand by that. I stand by, you know, you when we see another human being doing something, we associate with that, you know. We think that that is actually part of what makes it so cool. You know, you go tell your friends, yeah, this guy did this or this guy did that. But then you tell the same friends, yeah, this guy, uh, AI did that for him. He prompted it. There's immediately a lack of like connection there now of just respect, you know, or cool factor. It's like, ah, you immediately get that little kind of taste in your mouth. And even if you use it to some kind of limited degree, which again, like I say, I'm not totally against it in every way, or learn it to or use it to learn from, even though using it to learn from is not totally 100% accurate, you know, because they read your like they read you through the data you've given them, and then they try to adjust their answers according to what, you know, they think you want to hear, kind of thing, or whatever they're programmed, or data that they have that they can say answers from, etc., you know. But sometimes reality is a lot more nuanced, and so even I've found, even just always relying on them as like 100% truth is a bad idea. Like for whatever kind of information you might need, like, you know, just for an example, like, you know, taxes, like it could be accurate, but also it couldn't be, you know. Like I just asked it about Spaceballs recently because I just wanted to find out about the new Spaceballs movie, and I thought Mel Brooks was directing it, but I guess actually he's not, unfortunately, but he is 99 years old. Anyway, I was just asking, you know, did Mel Brooks direct the new Spaceballs movie, etc.? And the answer it gave me was just totally wrong. It's just like, oh yeah, no, Mel Brooks hasn't made a new Spaceballs movie. Da 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 da. There is no new Spaceballs. It was like, well, wait a minute. So for whatever reason, that the data was inaccurate, you know. So you have to still dig down deep and trust your own instincts when it comes to finding answers for stuff, you know. Wow. Well, I don't know, man. You can see the speed at which I'm working here, and you know, I'm feeling a little bit not 100% sure if I can finish this whole thing in the space of a single stream hour. But I'll post it on social media, you know, later if you guys want to take a look. Within a short frame of time, Punctuation Men will be available. The restored editions of this comic will be available on Ingram Spark, making it available in stores anywhere. And so, you know, even though right now you can find copies on eBay of the original print run, which is what that is, there will come a time when the only copies you'll be able to find are the Punctuation Men Restored Edition. And at that time, you should be able to find it anywhere. When we originally printed this one, we didn't think that far ahead, so it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't even have a barcode. But it is the original print run. Actually, even though it is the original print run, there was an earlier print run we did. I think I saw someone selling this on eBay too. That one is even more rare than this, because this one, as rare as it is, and it was the original main print run we did of 2,000 copies. The other one I'm talking about is ones that we actually ran off ourselves. And we used the printing machines at EVIT to do that in Arizona here. Because Jared Payne he actually attended EVIT, and so he had a connection over there. And we ran off 88 copies. He's just using their print machines over there, and we stapled them all together ourselves. And if anybody's got those copies, that's actually the most rare Punctuation Men copies in existence. And we sold out of most of those back in I think it was early 2003. We just pretty much sold out at the first con we did of those copies. So, how long have we been going? About 24 minutes. All right, just to kind of try to speed this up a little bit, I'm going to switch to a brush now. Sometimes I wonder if people are really that interested to watch me ink because people want to see something. Oh man, this brush is amazing. Sorry, I deflected there, or changed the topic. No, but I was just gonna say, people like to see, something go from nothing, and then there's something. And the inking stream is really something's there, and then it's there. Like, but it's more blacker. But nonetheless, for all you hardcore comic book enthusiasts, might be slightly interesting. I think I do this. I'm kind of like avoiding, not avoiding, but like I think I might subconsciously save the like hard parts for last. you know, I'll do the face last. Why do I do that? Insecure. Who knows? Fear. There's actually a lot of human behavior that we do that's based on fear and insecurity. Um, I've been listening to some YouTube videos about Carl Jung, some of his philosophies, and even though I don't really subscribe to any one person's philosophies 100%, I I do listen to what the wise, intelligent people and all that have said before me, and so I find some of that to be true and pretty interesting. And his ideas about like human behavior and all that. All right. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of talk about. There's probably gonna be streams where I talk more, and I try to keep a running dialogue here for an hour, and maybe some weeks it'll be, you know, more interesting what I'm saying, and maybe it'll sometimes be more interesting what I'm doing. We'll see. We'll see what happens. This is for me a little bit of an experiment, and yeah. What I want to try to be careful of as a habit of mine is I don't want to get too much hatching. even though hatching is cool, when you this has been a lesson I've learned over time, is when you use it a lot, then what happens visually is it starts to make everything of equal importance. And there's a certain busyness to the artwork, instead of just being like you know an enjoyable image. It can be a little bit tedious to even look at the thing. So how do you do that is, well, I'm going to try to do, even though it's not my habit, is to actually attempt to keep my rendering to a minimum here. Just, keep my grays to a minimum and keep my rendering to a minimum, and try to just define what I'm doing through the shapes. Because I think that when it's all finished here, that's actually going to be more dynamic and interesting than a bunch of little render marks everywhere. But there are some areas where a little rendering is called for. Right here in this area, I'm going to do some hatching in there. And also, when I hatch, I don't want to lower this a little bit for a minute. I don't want to, when I hatch, I don't want to have every stroke be identical. And if you look at like the art of the greats like Bernie Wrightson, they weren't like that. They had a little bit of a organic quality to them, which was, more beautiful than this sort of sterile chink 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 chink, like a machine making the hatching. Anyway, the way I enjoy like um talking about my thought process and some of my sort of philosophies and stuff. But I'm not gonna ever be the kind of teacher that is gonna sit here and, like teach anatomy and just how you do this, how you do that, because that's the kind of thing that just creates a bunch of clones, and it reduces people's inner creativity, you know. Because once you sort of understand like basic kind of philosophies and stuff, it's like take the oh, shit, a little bit wobbly there. take it and run with it, I say. Do we want a world where everybody is drawing the same? I don't think so. My head is my bald head covering up. Okay, I'm not even very much on the stream here. Let me lower the camera a little bit more. Sorry, guys. It's a one-man operation. All right, here we are. Another thing, when I ink, I tend to like kind of slow down, get this line, get that line. Let's do thick right here. Here's one thing a brush does for sure is gives you these organic shapes. Which may or may not be what you want in your art. If you don't want it, then don't use a brush. You can use a happy little marker. Use anything you want. If you've been watching this, I am Landon Huber. I'm an artist, illustrator, musician, and filmmaker. You guys should go check out my short film, Erratic. It was made on a shoestring budget with a lot of love. And the killer in the film is actually based on this scary story that my cousin told me when I was a kid. And I just imagined the whole thing in my head. And I'm not even sure if what I ended up creating was really, what he was thinking. But that wasn't the point. It was, you know, it was my thing to just make a horror movie because when I was about close to the age I was when I made the first Punctuation comic, around that time I was also being influenced by um, film, and I was having trouble. That was always one of my troubles in life. It's like, what do I want to be? I have all these different interests, and I guess what I'm attempting to do is to find a way that I can be all of them, you know, and at certain times, obviously, one will take precedence over the other. For instance, right now, I have no intention of doing any filmmaking, etc. Because each one of these avenues, whether it's music, filmmaking, art, you know, they all just require so much from you to do a quality work in those fields. and then the difficulty, art, making drawings, just in like a physical, economical terms, is probably the most affordable of all of these, with music being the next up on the list. You know, for instance, if you want to be like a bedroom producer, I know now the tools are better and more affordable, but you still got to at least buy like a laptop, right? And have like a keyboard and stuff. And those things cost money. But the most expensive and most difficult, because of all of them, is filmmaking, like actual movie making. Not like content like what I'm doing now, but actually trying to make a film and have it be good. That's expensive and difficult. And it also requires, I don't know, unless somehow you're making it all by yourself, which people have done, but certain stories obviously you can't make all by yourself. So it's also a working with others, collaborative medium, which means there's things that happen, especially on a low budget film, especially you don't have a lot of experience. There's just things that happen you're not prepared for, and you don't have control over. And on my film Erratic, and I'm not going to get into everything that happened, but lots of things happened that made it difficult for me to finish that thing for a long time, you know. But I finally did go back and get it finished. All right, well, what are we at? 42 minutes. So should I go a little longer? I might go a little longer. See, on some of these things where I'm already starting to get a bit brushy here and there. I'm gonna try to nip it in the bud a little bit. I need to get a big bunch of black right here on his shield, and I'm just gonna think about a big black shapes right here. So like the black is a design element. There's artists like Jack Kirby and Mike Mignola that are really good at that. And you know, they know what they're doing. And you can see the way I've drawn here that the black kind of fades into this. I think I would like a little bit of just a little bit of a dry ink effect kind of coming off of that. See, there's too much detail. Right here, that's, I just want all to be black right there. And just, if in doubt, blacking it out, I guess. Let's get some kind of cool dry brushy effect, sort of, right there. But then have it come back to shape. That's messy. Now, what ends up starting to happen is that all the black sort of starts to compound, and then you kind of got to be aware of the compositional effect it's having, and the shapes that it's making, etc. And they contrast, because the areas of highest contrast draw your eye first. But in a medium like black and white line art like this is, it's a high contrast medium, because you got only black and white, right? You only got black and white. You don't got gray. So all gray is something that has to be, all gray has to more or less be indicated through line work. Let me get more done on the hat here. Boy. Sorry guys if I'm coming off the camera a little bit. When you're working, you're not watching the camera, I'll get some more here. As I come down. Okay. A little bit lower. I'm gonna get rid of this tape for now so I can be free to move the paper. That's the way art goes sometimes, it's not always just this smooth process, and it doesn't need to be. But if you keep chugging along, then it'll work itself out. Shapes, Landon, shapes. Just think shapes. Line widths and shapes. Feeling a lot of black right here right now. Don't need a lot of detail in there. we go. Let's see. I think I will try to get some. Let's see. Let's have some fat little. Here, I just want that to be a black shape. But yeah, that's gonna be what these streams are. It's just gonna be me working, talking a bit. If I say something interesting, great. If not, well, come back next week and you might catch something interesting being said. But on the platforms like YouTube, the talkers seem to have no end of the conversations that they can have. Of course, it does help to have other people around to talk to. That you can always bounce from one topic to another, I guess. But even people that being around that you can talk to, there always seems to reach some sort of a wind down point in the conversation where it's like, okay, we've talked about all these things, and now let's wrap it up, because you can't talk forever, can you? Okay, well, I've been streaming for 52 minutes, and I'm super sorry for if my drawing came off of the page a few times there while I was working. My apologies. I'm going to go ahead and stream for just a little bit longer here. In a normal working day, once I have gotten to this point, I might go take a break and kind of reset my brain, go pet my dog, and drink a cup of tea or something. Sig. That's my sig, yo. You guys, if you like watching real artists work, support them, It's important to give back, and even if it's not through like super chats or buying anything, like the video. Uh, if anybody watching this, if you wouldn't mind just hitting the like and dropping a comment like cool vid or great work, something simple. Let's try to boost that YouTube algorithm just ever so slightly, so that, because when you do that, you're signaling to the people that make the content that you like it and that you'd like to see more. And so if you don't like it, you don't have to do anything. But if you do like it, even just a little bit, it helps the artist, whoever they are, It helps the person doing the thing to continue to do it, because sometimes people do it for a while, and then at some point they just ask themselves, why am I still doing this, you don't want them to ask that question, so help them out. Yeah, I'm gonna probably next because inking, there's just no way for me to keep the paper sedentary. I have to move it around because you can only get sort of a certain like I don't have the best hand control. And so most real inkers too will tell you, the ones that still exist, that they move their paper around all the time when they're drawing because you're trying to move the paper so that the stroke you make is going to be good because there's this a permanence. Like I'm not, there's no eraser, right? Even the great Alex Ross, I almost said Alex Roth. Alex Ross, he uh he didn't feel that comfortable with inking, so when he inked his comic, which was awesome, I saw it, it was pretty amazing. His work always is, but um he used gouache instead of ink for that very reason of giving him a ability to kind of lift up the ink and be able to kind of fix something, not have to be tied down, I guess. Okay. Well, almost at an hour, guys. Almost at 1 hour, and this is what I got done. That's not terrible. It's not terrible for an hour. Sometimes you gotta dip more than once to get that ink to flow out, even on a brush. The thing about a brush is it's just amazingly versatile. Like, look at this thing. It can make big marks, little marks. It's it's definitely organic though. So if you're like wanting this clean, perfect line, if that's your style, you know, it might be better to use markers or something. But if you want to have like fast character and thicks and thins and organic and an organic kind of quality about your work, then in those cases, brushes can definitely help you out. Now, what I'm probably going to do for this inking stream here is maybe just go on for like 15 more minutes, you know? Because as I say, I can't get it done all in 1 hour, but in that, and when I sometimes go into little areas like that, I'm just barely flicking it, barely putting any pressure on that brush at all. And with inking, you do kind of get into a zone where maybe your speed kind of picks up, or confidence kind of picks up, because you've already been your brain, it's like muscle memory. It's like playing the piano. I'm not a great pianist, but I do play the piano. I don't read music, but I write my own songs. And when I have a new song, usually it takes my brain a while till I kind of build up the muscle memory of the chords, because every song is a different. I'm not just playing every song in like the same chords. It's always like a different structure. So sometimes not sometimes, usually it takes a while of playing the song over and over till your brain starts kind of picking up the muscle memory, you know. Obviously there's savants, people that are just. I'm just going to do some really light hatch marks in there. There's people that are really good, played the piano since they were children and all that, or just. That's not me. But even at my age, I was 26 years old before I even really started playing piano. I played guitar before that, but not piano, and it's a totally different thing. And recently, I haven't been playing guitar much at all, because I don't know, I felt like I was kind of tapped out on the kind of songs I could write on guitar. So that's why I started playing piano more, and I've enjoyed it. I enjoy just I haven't even been like working on like recordings of music recently, but I just enjoy sitting down and playing a song on the piano. All right. I was gonna do these buildings. I was originally thinking of doing them, and there's just a few little background, indications. But I think I'm gonna kind of keep it in the dry brush arena there. But I'm gonna water my brush down a little bit, get some of this old ink out, because it's been a minute. Once in a while, you have to do that. And let's try to do a little bit of this background inking with the brush. And at this point, it's just going to be lighter line work. I've been bad this stream with keeping keeping my page on the camera. I'm sorry. I will definitely try to get that corrected for next stream. You know, before I had the paper taped here, and I, for the penciling, I didn't require moving it around so much, but I've learned, this being my first inking stream, I've learned um, what to do and what not to do. What to do is set up my camera in a way that I can move this paper around. So next inking stream, I will keep that in mind. And I don't plan on stopping, for a while here. So I mean, doing the streams weekly. Keeping these lines pretty light back here. Well, my goal is just give the idea of like a city back there. I'm also kind of struggling a little bit getting the consistency I want with my brush. Let's see. See how thin those are. Tricky. Tricky. 68 minutes. I said an hour 15, so that's gonna give me about 8 more minutes or so. Can I get it all done? I think I can get it a fair bit of the way there. I may, even after stream's over, I might do final tweaks off stream, etc. But for the drawing that it is, I've got something done here. It's like you hear those stories sometimes about how people had to like create an entire comic book over the weekend. Something like that. Really? I think they got one of those little, it's like that Adam Sandler movie where he can just pause time. Right now, my hand is getting a little bit cramped. but because I'm trying to make super engaging content for you guys, I'm gonna keep going here. Appreciate you, anybody who is watching this. Again, I just ask the same thing all YouTubers ask. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. But you're not watching this for me to give you directives, are you? You just want a little bit of entertainment. And what is more entertaining than watching a guy draw a picture? Nothing. Nothing. I don't care how many CGI, AI, CGI, billion-dollar movie effects you can see and that you can cram into your pupils within the space of an hour. It doesn't top watching a guy with a brush and a piece of paper. Nothing beats it. Very, very light. Just like there's almost nothing on my. See, it's even too much right there. I screwed it up. But there's almost nothing on my brush right now. Almost nothing. The cramps in my hands. And I know that if you do it correctly, you're not like Neil Adams. He was great, but he talked about how if you're inking correctly, you can ink all day and never get cramps. And I guess I'm just still trying to learn that skill because I still get cramps because I when I focus, like focusing too hard, and then it's like I tighten up, because if I don't tighten up on my fingers, sometimes I feel like it's just getting sloppy. I'm just losing the thing, whatever it is. But yeah, right now at this stage, I have just almost nothing on my brush there. I'm just doing tiny little dry hatches because these areas are almost supposed to read it as gray tone. They're a little bit softer, they're a little bit lighter. It's not like the thick shapes that I started out with here. And then these are just supposed to be like minimal background little things, like I said, to indicate a city back there. But we're getting close to the end now of the stream, guys. Thank you to anybody who watched. Thank you to anybody who might share, contribute to the ongoing legacy of real hand-drawn comics. But besides finishing touches and noodles, it's pretty much there, guys, and it's been 1 hour and 15 minutes. So thank you. Thanks for watching. Check out LandonHuberStudios.com. You can find links to buy this comic book, a really cool comic book called The Punctuation Men. bundles. You're gonna love it. It's great. And join me next week for drawing apostrophe. Next week, I'm going to draw this character right here, the apostrophe. This is a slightly more cynical sidekick. All right. I'm out, guys. Take it easy.